there's gratitude on the other side of pain, and there's love and there's passion. And so if you look at the idea of the best life, I don't think anyone who actually finishes this life, if there's with that consciousness afterwards of saying, I regret the hard times, because that you can't have gratitude and love and passion without difficulty. The experience must exist for the opposite. Beauty is only beauty if it's fleeting.
Hello, I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from downtown Prince George, British Columbia, Canada. And for all those people watching us from around the world, they say, okay, we know where Canada is, and we heard of British Columbia on the West Coast, right? Right. And then we know this big city in British Columbia called Vancouver. So where are you, John? Well, we are 500 miles north of Vancouver, or for our friends in Europe, 800 kilometers. And that puts us in the center of British Columbia, north, south, east, west. And so British Columbia and Prince George in particular is about 85,000 people, about 120,000 in the region. Within 50 miles, we got 100 lakes all around us. Lots of nature, lots of timber, lots of trees, lots of nature. Black bears, grizzly bears, caribou, deer, you name it, we have it all around us and living with us in harmony. And it is nature's paradise. Today, we got a very special guest. His name is Dane Johnson, and he has an amazing story about health and fitness and being proactive, in particular as it relates to Crohn disease, but also as it applies to other diseases or other health issues that we may have, and to be proactive, I believe, and proactive about it, and knowing your body, and then changing things mentally, physically, and staying the course. Dane, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, John, for having me. I'm blessed to be here. Thank you for everyone out there listening. I do want to dedicate this time to anyone out there who's dealing with chronic sickness like Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, inflammatory bowel disease, or IBS. This time is dedicated to you. Healing is possible, and grateful to be here.
So, Dane, tell us a bit about your history. Where were you born? And then obviously you started noticing something was wrong with you at a very early age. I think you were around 19 or so. But tell us first, where were you born? And then education, and then you noticed something was wrong, and it took you through the cycle that you want to share with everybody so they can learn from it, be proactive, and as you already indicated, sharing with others.
Yeah, so I was born in Overland Park, Kansas, and then my family moved to Georgia, and then I was raised in Northern Virginia, about an hour outside of Washington, D.C. And I went to college in Charleston, South Carolina, College of Charleston. Love that place. And then I had this passion to really live out in Southern California. You know, my grandfather and grandmother lived out in San Rafael, so we'd visit them. And I'd come here and see the mountains and the weather. And I thought at a young age, even 12 or 13, this is where I want to be.
Right.
So I took a one-way trip after a year of working in Washington, D.C. I took a one-way trip to Southern California with just a few bucks, no friends, no family, and just moved in with a random person and just built a life out here. And I've been out in California. I lived in New York, Germany a little bit, lived in Miami. I've lived all, around the world a bit, and just always had a charisma for the world and traveling until I, started getting symptoms of inflammatory bowel disease at 19 years old, where I started getting blood mistle. Yeah.
So when did you move to California?
2010, 2011 is when I finally made the move.
So how old were you then, Dan?
23.
Yeah.
When it came out. So I'll be 38 in about 2 weeks, and 2-3 weeks here. And I was 23, and I had finished college, did a year in DC, and working for Oracle softwares. And then I thought after a year, I said, you know what? So I was talking to my mom, my dad. I said, this ain't for me. I don't want to do a suit and tie for 40 years.
No.
And I went and got a waiter job in California. So, and then that was very interesting because I was offered a promotion. I did very well in Washington. And then I remember I got my first job at a fish joint selling fish and wine at a local place right off the bay in Newport Beach, California. And they fired me within 2 weeks because I couldn't hack it. I couldn't remember all the wines.
Right.
So it was a beautiful experience. My heart warms thinking about that time. And, John, when you do something, not because you have not for the job, not for the money, not for status, but when I was that young, I did it for passion. I did it because I loved where the mountains met the sea.
Exactly.
And yeah, I love the weather and I love the culture. And so that's why I came.
Newport Beach in particular is such a beautiful area, right?
Yeah, Newport Beach. It's a beautiful area, very expensive area, but clean and fun. And there's so much to do. I can go surfing at 6 a.m. or spearfishing. I can go snowboarding 2 hours away from that. So from surfing to snowboarding is 2 hours.
So at this critical point in your life, you noticed something was wrong with you, and particularly as it related to your digestive system, noticing blood in your stool, and this is an alarming signal, right?
Yeah,
to anybody.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and this started happening while I was in Washington, D.C. working. So I was, commuting an hour there, hour back, suit and tie, eating poor quality food at restaurants every single day. And I started seeing it, go to the bathroom. I look down and say, wow, it looks like a crime scene in the toilet. What happened? And then all of a sudden I'm having 3 bowel movements a day, 5 bowel movements a day, 8 bowel movements a day, 12, 15, 20 bowel movements a day. And so, when you're that young, you don't want to tell your parents, you don't want to tell your girlfriend, you're a kid. And so I held it until it was too big of a deal. Finally went to the doctor, and the doctor says you have ulcerative colitis. And then it turned into Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. And every doctor had a different diagnosis for me, to be quite honest. So.
Now, Crohn's disease is what? It has to do with your digestive system, but
Yes.
Share it with us what it really is, and what does it show? Is it a pain, or how does it manifest itself?
Yeah, great question. So it's a form of inflammatory bowel disease. So there's irritable bowel syndrome, people who have IBS who just have an urgency and, maybe spicy food and food sensitivity. And then the chronic, incurable form and dangerous, life-threatening form in some cases of that's called inflammatory bowel disease. And that can be ulcerative colitis, proctitis, Crohn's disease. I was diagnosed at one point with ulcerative colitis and gastritis. And then another doctor said Crohn's disease. So basically, it's an autoimmune disease where your body is attacking your own digestive system. You lose the ability to digest, absorb, and handle food, just in general. So imagine you're putting something in your mouth, you're chewing it, and to swallow a vegetable, to swallow some potato or even chicken or anything, you start having severe reactions to food.
Meaning what? Reaction. Sometimes I have something and then I get that sour feeling, or that doesn't quite agree with it, but then it goes away, right?
Yeah. So in my case, and a lot of people out there, what may be happening, they call it a hidden disease. So someone out there might be listening and not had it, but you've heard of someone else having it. And so you might have extreme bloating, urgency, brain fog, low energy. You start losing weight. So for me, I went from 185 pounds to 120 pounds in a wheelchair. So I couldn't eat. If I would have a sip of water, I would have to go use the restroom. So the severe cases, you'll get the colon inflamed, and then you'll get a lot of blood, mucus, urgency, diarrhea. Yeah. And those are some of and that's interesting because there's actually the bottom right and the top right are actually, when I was in New York City and Los Angeles, I actually became a professional actor, and I did a few movies and commercials, and I did modeling, and that was in a men's fitness magazine. So, the ironic part about it is I was a fitness fanatic. I would work out 6, 7 days a week, much like you, John, very similar, where it's just like, we love it, we're into it. And I would I was 172 pounds, strong as an ox, really shredded. Obviously we have a good photographer with good lighting and making me look tan there on that one. And,
Yeah.
but I was, I was down to 6% body fat, 175 pounds, 6'2", with a 315-pound bench press. And I was strong as an ox, and I could sprint, I could run. And then you fast forward 2 years later, I'm in a wheelchair and I can't walk.
Woof.
Yeah. And what did I do to deserve this? I mean, it wasn't like, John, it's like I wasn't smoking a pack a day, right? I wasn't drinking alcohol. I was in the gym. I was eating chicken, rice, and broccoli, right? I was staying away from sugars a lot of the time. And so my body just lost the ability to break down food. I had severe chronic inflammatory responses. My colon was so inflamed that it was just mucus, blood, and I'd get this urgency. So you asked about IBD. I'd run to the bathroom and a little bit of sediment and blood would come out. And then I'd get the relief would go away. And then about 20 minutes later, that sense of urgency came right back. So, but nothing would come out except mucus, blood, and a little bit of almost like sand or sediment at the bottom of the toilet. And it would just happen about 20 times a day. And this went on for 4 years.
And you didn't, because those things are delicate, right? Delicate to talk about with your family, with your girlfriend or wife or whatever, because those are so personal that,
Very
so, and so then before you become I presume that the reaction would be concern on your part. This is not normal. So how do I go about this? It's not in your family. It's not one of those things. If you have it in your family, you're likely will. No, but it's just something that. So, at what point did you get to somebody that said, "Okay, that's what it is. Let's do this about it." Blah blah blah. How did it go from that? Now you want 20 times a day. Now
Yeah.
you had to go to help to a doc who then concluded Crohn's.
So once I started seeing blood in the stool consistently, at first you think maybe I ate something, maybe something I had a hemorrhoid, maybe there was a little fissure. You learn these terms. And so as a young man, you're just kind of hoping it goes away, and it didn't. And so I finally started telling everybody what I was seeing. And then we went to the doctor. They did a colonoscopy. I was diagnosed first with ulcerative colitis, left-sided ulcerative colitis. And
How old are
and
you
then
there? How old are you now
I
then?
was 22 when I was finally diagnosed, but I started seeing blood at 19.
Yeah,
When I was in college and my family was in Virginia, I was in college 2 states away.
yeah,
I was living my life. I was having fun. I didn't want to think about it. The blood was on and off when I was 19 and 20.
yeah.
And so and I started naturally doing things like, I'm going to pass on the beer. You're in college, all the guys, we want to drink beers and play these
Obviously.
games. So that's what we're doing. And so I'm starting to clean up certain things in college that I think helped me. I also went to school 2 miles from the beach. So I had
Did you start looking Google, did blah, blah, blah?
No, because that was back, I graduated college in 2009.
Yeah.
It just wasn't, a lot has happened in our world in the last 15 years. There was no one had even heard of it. I didn't even know what an autoimmune disease was. I didn't.
No.
A lot of us are still hearing this right now. Like, what's Crohn's? What's colitis? What's multiple sclerosis or lupus or rheumatoid arthritis? These are all autoimmune diseases that are new. So I just, as a young kid, I just wanted to go away. I didn't know what it was. There was no disease in my family. We were young. We were healthy. We were in shape. We didn't have obesity and cancer and diabetes. So it was so strange.
I just want to throw in one thing that I had. And so in 2008, so I was then 68 years old. I got immense pain, and I have a high threshold for pain. That's not good. And my left side of my body, right side is appendix. I didn't know what it meant. And so I was down the coast here. I had to catch a flight 5 in the morning, and it's very out of the ordinary for me. I don't know how I even made it from gate to gate. I had to hang on to the rail because if I would go down, they would call 911. And so I had to get back to Prince George, went to my doc. He said, to the hospital right now. I did. And then I had never heard of a case of diverticulitis.
Hmm.
And so that is the colon. And so it had ruptured and the toxins went through my body. So they took out 20 centimeters of my colon, put
Hmm.
it back together again. Didn't need a bypass, but they put it back together again. And then since that time, I've had no issues. But so that has been, but the doc said, because you have then about 48 hours when the toxins flow through your body and start attacking the other healthy ones, that I came that close. And it changed my life in the sense of being much more proactive in terms of diet, fitness, and health, and being more, and that's the point that I wanted to make. Something happened in my life that brought me this close, and I started to say to myself, I have to become, my wife is a vegetarian. I didn't listen as well as I could have, should have, I do now, but I became much more proactive in terms of fitness, diet, and all the other things relating to my body. So I just wanted to mention that to you.
Well, I love that. I didn't know that, John, and thank you for mentioning and saying, because now this story means so much more to both of us and many of the listeners out there that are dealing with autoimmune disease or inflammation or gut health issues. And, what can we do about this? And you had that surgery, partial colectomy, reattach the colon can be life-saving. And I was told, that I had to get that surgery, but I actually never did.
Right.
And so I've never had any surgeries and I've been medication free for 10 years, but that's not, it's not a magic pill, not a magic secret. There's a lot we can do, but we all have our own road and path we must take.
Yeah. But the main thing though, Dane, is you became proactive.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to go through the difficulty of, even at 19, when you're at such a delicate stage in your life, when things are just beginning and all the things in your life went well, from being in Virginia, going to Newport Beach, having a career opportunity with Oracle, and everything was going well. And then, but at the same time, you had this thing happening to you that you really could not share with anybody, because it's at a point in our life that those things are delicate. It's not just having a cold, but this is something that you must have known, you knew are delicate. This is something that becomes serious. And at what point, can you share it with others? And at what point can you do something about it that, your whole life is ahead of you? You had everything going for you in your life, save and except this part that would become such a critical part of your life.
Courage, life, we go through things and they either make us or they break us. And I really believe that, it's either going to be the worst thing that ever happened to you or it's going to be one of the best. Because as you said, John, it changed how you saw food. It changed how you saw life. It changed how you listened to your wife. There's gratitude on the other side of pain, and there's love and there's passion. And so if you look at the idea of the best life, I don't think anyone who actually finishes this life, if there's with that consciousness afterwards of saying, I regret the hard times, because that you can't have gratitude and love and passion without difficulty. The experience must exist for the opposite. Beauty is only beauty if it's fleeting.
Exactly.
There's no such thing as something that's beautiful, that's chronically beautiful. It's you. Oh my, you're 19. You're at a beautiful age. Why? Because it's fleeting.
Yeah.
It's leaving. And so there's life. We have to experience pain to experience love. And so that's why I'm here. And I have such gratitude and passion and empathy and transparency because of the shame I went through. I mean, I lost control of my bowel movements on set of movies and commercials and shoots. I'm supposed to be the cool guy, John. I'm supposed to be the guy. God gave me this gift. Here, you can go shoot in Europe and you can fly around the world and they'll pay you $3,000 a day as a kid. I was broke. I had $3,000 in my name. And all of a sudden I got this gift. But here on the other hand, here's 20 bloody bowel movements a day. You're losing weight, covered in cystic acne. You can't control your bowel movements. You need to wear a diaper. You have to be on drugs for the rest of your life. And you need to get your colon removed.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's it. On the left, I'm taking a chemotherapy. I'm stuck in that hospital for 6 weeks straight. I lost the ability to walk. The top left was right after my birthday. It was right before Christmas in 2014. I weighed 122 pounds. I had been, living in a bed. And on the right was a year or two before that where I was in a men's health not men's, it was like a men's fitness magazine they had hired me to be Mr. Cool Guy.
Yeah.
Like how I was so, the irony, John, the irony, you're supposed to be the cool guy. You've been given this gift. I was hired to do a few shoots by, this company called Gucci, right? Gucci hired me, and I'm at parties with Tom Hanks, waiting on these Robert Pattinson and Leonardo DiCaprio. And then literally on the other hand, I'm fighting for my life. And so I was so angry and so upset. And I know that there's people around there who can relate with this shame of, and then everyone's going, what's wrong? What's wrong with you? And then to talk about your bowels,
Exactly.
to be able to be covered in your own feces.
Yeah.
In mucus, and having your mother at the age of 24 hold a pan under your bum to release blood and mucus while you're fighting for your life.
Yeah.
And you're a shell of yourself. I look in the mirror. I'm still that guy who could go run 10 miles and lift a ton of weight over my head. But you look in the mirror and I'm a dying patient. And what happened? I'm young. I'm 24 years old. What did I do to deserve this? How come this happened to me? This is my youth.
Yeah.
The anger, the pain, the hopelessness, because, my mom and dad, I came from a middle-class family. I don't come from a very wealthy family. We were spending 5 figures, thousands of dollars, flying me around the world, going to different doctors, trying natural medicine, buying out Whole Foods, going on Google and, reading about this magic pill and that magic diet. And I was just miserable, John. I mean, they were stuffing gluten-free, dairy-free down my throat and only eat meat and live on bone broth. And I was just withering, trying these diets. And I didn't have passion for it. I didn't have belief. I was angry. We were trying functional medicine, natural medicine, conventional medicine. And to have that happen at such a young age, it was the most difficult thing I've ever been through in my life. It wasn't fair. My parents couldn't take it away from me, and money couldn't buy me out of it.
So what changed?
Great question. I changed. That's it. When I got backed into a corner and it was serious, and I looked in my mom and dad's eyes, and there's no answer. For my entire life, there was always an answer. And there was no answer. And then I talked to my doctors, and I talked to this doctor. I went to Mayo Clinic, UCLA, Cedars-Sinai. I went to all these different doctors. And there wasn't an answer. I was saying, okay, so doc, repeat to me. Now when you start to get 20, 22, you start waking up. Remember, John, you wake up like an adult. Like, okay, wait, what are we saying? What's my fate? You need to take these immunosuppressant biologics for the rest of your life, infusions for the rest of your life. We need to get a surgery to cut out your colon. You might need a stoma bag. You had that conversation, right, John? That, hey, this doesn't go right. Maybe we have a stoma bag. And this could affect your ability to work. So you might need to move back to Virginia, move back in with mom. And also, you do have increases of certain cancers because of these lifelong medications. And that was it. And so for me, and I know everyone's different, my life, my journey, my walk, I always envision great things for myself.
Right.
I think you're the same, John. You just wake up and you just have this hope, and you almost expect great things. No, I'm not going to let myself get out of shape. No, I'm going to take action because I see a future that's brilliant, that's full of more love, more adventures. You're not right, John? You see adventures in the future.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was like Peter Pan almost spiritually. I saw adventure.
Right.
I saw excitement, and I had moved to California and made this career happen out of thin air. I grew up on a farm. I grew up in the middle of nowhere with no connections in California, none of that. I took a one-way flight by myself and slept on the ground of a random apartment for a week with no bed, you know, and I had $4,000 to my entire name. That was my net worth. So I didn't care. I was young. I had my heart. I had my breath. I had my youth. I had that sun. I could lift weights. I could go talk to people. I was free. I'm not going to sit in an office during my 20s.
No.
So that passion saved me, because all of a sudden it was like, no, this is your fate. What changed is I was not willing to accept what the world was willing to accept from me.
Yeah.
If that made sense, let that sink in.
Yeah.
If I had woken up and said, Mom, I have to go on disability, I've got to get the surgery, she would have accepted that, and that would have been that.
Exactly.
And I could have told my friends and the whole world, that is what is my destiny. This happened to me. I'm a victim, and I couldn't have done anything about it. I could have lived that story.
Yeah.
And the whole world would have accepted it.
Yeah.
I refused that fate, and I almost died fighting for it.
Right.
Because I got so sick I couldn't even get the colectomy. And I almost died December 14, 2014 in the hospital. My whole family flew out from Virginia to California. So my mom, my dad, my two sisters, and took turns sleeping at the hospital with me for the bedpans, because I would have about 8 bowel movements through the night, 8 to 10. And then I actually lost consciousness. I was on Ambien. I was on 3 grams of Dilaudid, 200 milligrams of infused prednisone, 4 antibiotics. We were trying Flagyl, Ciprol, you name it. And then I was on a chemotherapy that saved my life. So I had gone all the way there, all the way to like, he might not live through the night. But because I was lucky enough to survive and live, and there was a whole story I can tell you. There was a doctor in Florida who did a colonoscopy who found in one sample of many colonoscopies the cytomegalovirus, CMV, cytomegalovirus. And he believed that virus had taken over my body because the IBD had made me so weak. The virus had taken over. It was killing me. And he had the doctor at the hospital give me the antiviral chemo that saved me.
So really, colonoscopy,
Mm-hmm.
is commonly done and being preemptive to make sure your colon system is free of diseases or problems potentially. It's usually done for people that are in the late 40s, 50s. I'm not a doc. I'm just talking aloud, and it is very commonly done, really. But then again, I believe what you're saying to me is this one doc that did, among many others, that did colonoscopies on you, found this one virus that
Mm-hmm.
other people had not discovered.
Yes.
And he reacted to that by medicating you against that virus that had taken over your digestive system.
Yeah.
And that in fact changed everything for you.
That's right. Now, he had found it about a year prior, because we flew to Florida to meet with different doctors, and they all wanted to do it. I did many colonoscopies. Everywhere
Yeah.
you go, they want a colonoscopy.
I have had them done too. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And they're dangerous. I mean, I was so inflamed, I could have perforated. There's dangers we have to be aware of when we do colonoscopies. They're very common in the United States and Canada specifically.
Yeah.
And so that's, yes. They couldn't find the CMV because they didn't have the labs to be able to test it in my blood. They weren't seeing it. But this one, he was a GI doctor who called the urgent care doctor to say, I believe this theory. So we couldn't prove it. I believe this is why you can't get them better. Because I was dying and they couldn't figure out why. And he said, give them a sample of the antiviral chemo and see what happens. And we called my insurance and said, he needs a sample. It's very expensive. So we're talking, the chemo I had to do for a month was about $100,000. So it was an extremely expensive stuff. My family wasn't rich. I had no money myself. I had a few bucks. And I woke up. So I was actually unconscious for about 5 or 6 days. Remember, I was in the hospital for 6 weeks straight, and that's where I lost the ability.
You were this close.
I was pretty close. I don't know if it was like, people are pumping me on the heart type of thing you see in the movies. but I had lost, I don't remember about a week of my life there. I don't know. My mom tells me, the doctor tells me, my sister tells me, but my mom later informed me that the doctor pulled her aside and said, we're not sure if he's going to live through the night.
Yeah.
We don't, because I was so malnourished. I was so inflamed. They had so I had a feeding tube. I was no longer eating. I was no longer walking, moving.
And that meant you are on the way out.
Yes, it seemed like that. And it's very scary to say that. I don't say that lightly. I don't like saying that. I've actually feel the trauma in my body reliving it. But that's, it's courage. And I'm here to share and help others. And hopefully no one else has to go through what I went through. But that's when my life changed. I mean, I was trying, and the crazy thing is, John, I was trying and utilizing natural medicine and conventional medicine for years prior to that moment.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed in 2011. I had gotten the symptoms back in 2008, 2009. And that was 2014 that I nearly passed. So this was years. This was not something that
6 years.
A lot of money and done diets. I was already in school, back in school for natural medicine, past college's years. This is years after college. So I really went through it, and that's why I'm here, and why I try to lead is there are very few cases in the world who had a more severe and intense case of inflammatory bowel disease than I did.
So the thing then, Dane, that I'm wondering is that the doc that you found in Florida with the reputation, must have had a reputation that attracted you to him, although he was expensive, but his analysis would be different than the most common ones that people do, because he was looking deeper, further into the cause in your particular case. How did you find them?
That's what I would assume, but I don't know, because back then I was a kid, and my mom was, my dad didn't know what to do. This is when moms step in. When their sons or daughters get really sick, a lot of people we work with, it's their moms, right, who really get involved. Same with dads, but she was dragging me around the country. She was buying plane tickets and getting hotels and dragging me to this specialist and that specialist, because she knew how serious this was, and I didn't want to deal with it.
Right.
I just put on Netflix. I'm sick, Mom. What do I do? Like kids, like a kid.
Yeah.
I was a 22-year-old kid.
Yeah.
I was a kid, and I hadn't turned into a man yet. And I like to say, I know 18-year-old men and I know 40-year-old boys.
Yeah.
I was a boy. I hadn't grown up. I was my physical features, I had a beard, right? I was a certain height. I had the features of a man, but I was emotionally and spiritually still.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for sickness. I had never experienced any sickness, and my family hadn't either.
How would you?
And so
right?
It goes back to that same question. You say, well, what changed? I changed. I turned into a man.
Yeah.
And the difference between a man and a boy is being able to, the ability to respond to adversity, I think. Yeah. Your ability to respond to stress. The ability to take being stuck between a rock and a hard place and being convicted on making it work for your family. Because, when you get older and you have kids, I have 2 sons now, and now it's like, I'll die for them. I don't care. Yeah. So but I had to get like that, because I had to get like that before I was married, before I had kids of my own, before I had my own home to take care of. And I got like that because I saw the hopelessness of, one, the conviction of my life, but I also saw what it was doing to my mother. I saw what it was doing to my father. I saw what it was doing to my siblings. I saw what it was doing to my friends. And what are you going to do? And I got off my knees spiritually. I was so stuck in a corner, and I got beaten for years. So I think a big point that I want everyone listening to give themselves empathy on is I didn't just wake up. I had to get beat down year after year, month after month of complaining and being emotionally the victim when I had a right to be. When we're chronically sick and we get something we didn't deserve, we have a right to be a victim. Yeah. Why did you get this cancer? Did you deserve it? What about this other disease or this problem? And it just took that long for me to get off my knees, and something finally changed in me, where I had a few epiphanies. Number one, I realized that no one would ever be able to heal me as well as I can heal myself. Right. Doctor can't feel me every day. I see this doctor every few months for 5 minutes. He doesn't know how I feel every day. He's not tracking my symptoms. No. He doesn't know what's going on emotionally. And I also realized that stress was making me sick. Dane, when you're stressed and you're crying, you're upset, do you get worse symptoms? Yes. Okay. So what are you going to do about it? So I started waking up to this and I got off my knees. And then I started realizing also, I forgave myself and I said, Dane, it's not your fault that this happened to you, but it is for darn sure your responsibility. And I decided that there was a difference between the two, fault and responsibility. The ability to respond. See, that's what a man has, the ability to respond. A boy doesn't yet.
No.
And you just got to decide. It's your life. Your mama can't do nothing for you, boy. That's what I was saying to my men. I started talking to myself like strong.
Either you go this way or that way, right?
That's it. Yeah. That's it. It's no, mama can't do nothing. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Mama can't save you. Doctor can't save you. She already wrote checks. She already emptied her bank account for you, Dane. I started getting a fire in my belly.
Yeah.
And I remember I walked in, I had lost control of my bowels, and this company had hired me out in Ohio to do some stuff, to do some modeling and acting stuff. And so I walked back into my place in Santa Monica, California. I was living at the time. And I still held on to my dream. I never moved back in with mom. I kept my apartment. I was really good with my finances. I didn't buy expensive stuff. I just really worked it, right? And so I walked in. I remember I shut the door and I was just done. Something snapped inside of me where I was done being a victim and I was done being sick. I was fed up. It just snapped. And I just said, I'm not leaving this house until I've got a game plan. I am now dubbing myself the CEO of my health. It's not my doctor's responsibility to heal me. It's not mom's. It's not my sister's, who has also given money to help me out. And it's not my girlfriend's. It's nobody's responsibility but myself. And I just snapped and I said, I am now the CEO of my health. I'm going to build my plan. I'm going to own this. And I literally that same day I had that mental change. That's why I say healing starts in the mind. That very day, I got clarity. I had epiphanies. Like, okay, you're going to do this. You're now taking responsibility. This is no one else's responsibility. It's not your fault. Yes, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. What are you going to do about it? And I basically macheted up a bunch of printer paper and I hole punched it and I safety pinned it all together. And I wrote on the front of it 40 days and 40 nights. And I made a pact with myself and I signed it saying, I am only going to eat what I prepare. And I'm going to track every symptom and everything I'm doing for 40 days and 40 nights and see what happens. I don't know about being gluten-free for the rest of my life. I don't know about living in a bubble for the rest of my life, which I'm reading these books, right? But I know for 40 days, I'm going to control every variable that I can, and I'm not leaving this house until I have a plan. I called my agent. I called any kind of work, and I said, I was hiding it from that world. That's a whole another story. I mean, I was hiding. I had this career, boom, and I was 40 pounds underweight, covered in acne, losing control of my bowels, running off sets. Like, where are you going? I'm like, it was just very embarrassing, very shameful. And I just said, I can't work. I'm not trying to make money. I'm not trying to go to a party. I'll be as social as I need to be. And I wrote that down and I started tracking. And then I started doing prayer. I started doing the purpose of my day through affirmations. I started doing aromatherapy. I cleaned my house. I only listened to positive music. I stopped watching intense, crazy, dramatic movies. I started asking myself to read at least 30 minutes a day. I worked that up to about 4 hours a day. And then I started gardening. I got in the sun 30 minutes a day. It was like an epiphany. John, it was all obvious. I just wasn't ready to make the decision. And it wasn't like, those are the things that when I look back, there was the epiphany that there was so much I could do. Beforehand, I wasn't acting because the diets weren't working, the supplements weren't working. So that's all I would look at, is reacting to someone telling me, stop eating gluten, reacting to stop having, or have this great supplement. It's vitamin D, it's omega-3s, it's a probiotic. And so that wasn't working. None of that was working. And I would lose steam in it and then give up.
Yeah.
So the epiphany was like, look at all these other things that are actually the foundation before you look at food. So I had this epiphany that I didn't know what I was going to eat, but I knew if I only ate what I prepared, the variables would get easier. I'd gain clarity. It was something I could do, and I could gather the data, continue to refine a custom nutrition plan for me. So I would read about carnivore, AIP, low FODMAP, SCD diet, all these different diets, and then I would try things and I would data collect on how I responded to famous protocols. And so it all started right there. And I was kind of alone in this journey because for the first time, my mom wasn't leading me. I was leading myself. And then I was responsible to help her stress go down. So
Yeah.
when she would call me every day, and so she would say, "Hey, honey, how you doing?" And if I had said, in the past, I would say, "Well, I'm still having bleeding." And then she would freak out, spend her whole day trying to figure something out, running in circles like our mothers do.
Yeah.
And so I would started realizing I needed to change this. And so she'd call me and say, hey, honey, how you doing? And I'd say, Ma, guess what? The blood's down 30%.
Yeah.
Still got blood. But I'm not telling her I still got blood. I'm telling her it's 30% better. I'm
Yeah.
finding a reason to celebrate. I'm letting my mom's stress go down. It's letting my stress go down.
She changed because you changed.
Yes. I let her relax because I was getting happy.
Yeah.
Parents cannot relax until their kids relax.
Exactly. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
And I laugh so hard because I've got 2 kids now, and I'm like, it's 100% true. Like they cannot relax till their kids relax. And so when I decided to heal myself and I decided that I was no longer going to be a victim, I wasn't going to allow myself to be depressed anymore. I was going to find a reason to smile. John, you start learning what the word happiness actually means.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm going to ask you a question right now. What would you rather do? Lose your mother or your father or your best friend, or go through disease? If they just died today, or you have to fight and battle through disease, which one would you pick?
Yeah.
I still had my mom. I would rather take the disease and still have my mom.
Exactly.
You see, and so I all of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute, I still got 2 feet. I got my eyes.
Yeah.
Would you rather be blind or have this disease?
Exactly.
I can beat this. I can't. Once you're blind, that's it.
Yeah.
So it was like all of a sudden I had the air. I had California sunshine. I had Bob Marley singing to me. I had my garden. I could put my feet in the ground. I had the phone. I had my tongue. I could call my best friend and say, how you doing? Let's make your life better. How's your relationship? How's that marriage going?
Exactly.
Everything that when you're on your deathbed, you actually care about, you still have.
Exactly.
Because at some point ever, we're all going to lose our health. But what do you still have to be happy?
Yeah, exactly.
And I still had everything that I actually wanted in my life besides my health. And so I started realizing what happiness actually was, and it was the greatest gift I ever had.
And so then what happened?
Once and this is where things like, and I want to throw these terms out if people really feel spiritually beaten down, you should be looking at eye movement desensitization reprocessing, German new medicine, hypnosis, or emotional freedom technique. These are ways of releasing trauma through your body to help your body's nervous system calm down. It's energetic, but it's also the science backed around it. We know stress is making us sick. So once I started releasing the pain and stress and worry, it got way easier to eat clean. It got way easier to go to bed at time. It got way easier not to drink alcohol. It got way easier to be gluten free. It got way easier to practice meditation and laughter. And my whole system just, boom, from you're almost dead, you're stuck with this for the rest of your life. Doctors are telling me, all this reality I'm living in, this is my reality. I started to actually experience a new reality that manifested that reality. So when you drop that pain and you drop that fear, this is the law of attraction. This is the secret. You are attracting a new vibration, a new energy. So I got happy when I couldn't walk. And then all of a sudden, when you're stressed, I'll tell you, when we eat donuts and we eat the chips and stuff, it's on a stressful day. It's not on a day when you're laughing and you got your friends in town.
No. Yeah.
We poison ourselves when we're overwhelmed.
Right.
So all of a sudden, it got easier not to poison myself with toxic food I couldn't handle. Like I all of a sudden became a Jedi in a way where I was only having bone broth for a couple of days, and then I would only eat this and only eat that. And what I would, to manage the food cravings, I would go for a walk. I would listen to Tony Robbins and his books. I would listen to Jordan Rubin and his story of climbing back up the mountain from 112 pounds to fully healed in Huntington Beach. And he was his books helped save my life, The Maker's Diet, Patient Heal Thyself. I started reading success stories and I stopped focusing on I didn't focus on the cliff. I focused on the guy who made it to the mountain. And I just listened. It's the only guy I listen to every day. The guy who made the guy who made the mountain, the guy who made the mountain, and that's why everyone's listening right now because they want to listen to the guy who made the mountain, like you, John.
Exactly.
And just all of a sudden, it started feeling. This is when you know you're going to heal. If it feels like it can be done, and it feels like you're closer, and it feels more simple. If you are feeling those, you are attracting it. It's coming.
How old are you there?
I'm 27.
27. So now you had, you already had the interaction with the doc in Florida?
Oh yeah, that was a year, that was prior, that helped save me because I was in the hospital for 6 weeks. That conversation saved my life with the chemo, and then I was housebound for a year. And this conversation should be housebound for a year.
Yeah. So, and then from there on in, now you took control over you. You brought down the stress level, and you started to be much more proactive on diet and your body and all the other things that are so important to health, physical movement, healthy body, understanding your body and your mind.
Well, I also was back in school for natural medicine. So I was in a program working with naturopath professors. And luckily a lot of the professors, I became good friends with them. So I would invite them out to lunches as I got healthier. And I just started hanging out with doctors of naturopath medicine, functional medicine, people, energetic healing. So I read insatiably 3-4 hours a day about the immune system, cytokine reactions, digestion, how the liver and gallbladder and drainage systems are involved, and the microbiome and what it is, and the gut lining,
understanding your body, right?
I dedicated my life to understanding the biochemistry, what autoimmune disease is, the root causes, and I then found multiple root causes and multiple issues that the doctors had never told me or even looked. All those years, John, they never even looked. No one ever did even a stool analysis on me. How do you have a chronic disease of the gut? You go to the biggest hospitals and they're not even doing a stool analysis. Did they ever do a stool analysis for you? Sometimes they will. Sometimes they'll check for C. diff and E. coli and stuff, but they won't even order. They just do colonoscopies.
But we never question it, right? So because I grew up in a period where you didn't question that. You just accepted what they said as that was it. It was not being proactive in understanding your body, your mind, and this precious body that you have that is so immensely forgiving and only will take so much abuse until it says that's the best we can do. But you need that knowledge, and I believe much more so than it used to be. We are on the road, and you are a contributor to that in a big way in sharing with the world your experience on Crohn's disease and all the emotions that went with it, and then being where you are today.
You said it. When I say CEO of your health, what I'm saying is you have to make sense of what other people are telling you to do and why. Why are we doing this and why aren't we doing this? I got different perspectives in the room, and then I would bring those perspectives to each person. I would call them on my board. So I bring in my GI doctor, my primary care, my naturopath professor, my naturopath doctor, and then I'd also be researching this stuff in the books. So I got a variety of opinions and started making sense of why were people doing things for me with my disease, and what was their agreements, where was there not. And so I started actually just running it myself. I'm not the doctor, but break it down to me so simple. Okay, I'm reading over here that I should do an organic acid test, that I should do a micronutrient panel, that I should do a quantitative PCR stool analysis. I've now learned what those things are. GI doc, why can we do these? Can we do these under insurance? Well, if not, why not? Is there something we might find? And the crazy thing is I did a stool analysis, non-invasive, from my home, and it cost me $400. Okay, I found massive overgrowth of Candida albicans. Okay, which there's tons of clinical research that high levels of Candida, which is a form of fungus, in your body can cause severe inflammatory responses, especially in the colon. So I found 4 or 5 times the normal threshold of what in the functional medicine world says is normal. Doctors never check. I found very high levels of H. pylori. H. pylori is clinically shown to cause ulcers. I had ulcers, and it's clinically shown to cause gastritis. I had gastritis. All those years. Just give me prednisone, steroids. Why? Wait, what is H. pylori? Wait, I've been dealing with this for 4 or 5 years, chronically sick, nearly died. How come we haven't talked about H. pylori as a possible candidate to why I got sick, or candida? And then all of a sudden I found blastocystis hominis, a parasite. Wait, what? Why haven't we talked about this parasite? The doctors who, when I was in that urgent care or at these other, they never found cytomegalovirus. It was one doctor one time. I ended up years later finding a doctor's named Dr. Armin. He's an MD in Germany, and he runs his own lab. It's called Armin Labs. And I called him up and I said, look, I know there's something going on with CMV virus from my past. And he ended up helping me build a lab test for these multiple viruses that he believes are root issues of all autoimmune disease and Alzheimer's. And I did his test and I found large amounts of cytomegalovirus in my bloodstream. For the first time I had proof. And then I got rid of it with natural herbs. And I had proof. No one had ever checked these things. And I'm not angry with the doctors, because I realized later on that our doctors are the very best urgent care physicians in the world. You get in a car accident, you get shot, you go to them. You don't take herbs and do natural diet. But when you want to restore your body's vibrance and vitality, natural earth, herbs,
being proactive in understanding your body and looking at longevity, quality of life, all of those issues. The same in Canada. We have very good emergency situations. Our docs are fabulous, but in terms of being proactive in understanding and all the other things relating to that, they don't get training in that area. But things are changing, I believe, Dane, gradually and slowly. You are a perfect example of that. That's why I'm so delighted to have you on my podcast. And while I get so excited about it that so where is your Crohn disease today?
So I have no symptoms. I have anywhere from 1 to 3 bowel movements a day. I have no inflammation. My calprotectin's been normal for years. I still have the ability, my body still has the ability to react. So that's the difference between cure and remission. If doctors believe that something can come back, they'll call it remission. If they believe that something can be completely eradicated, they call it cure. But for all my listeners, one thing or the people listening today, I do want to ask you, and John, try to answer this question for us. Name one thing in this world you can cure. Name a disease that you can cure. What's a disease you can you cure the flu?
No.
Can you cure cancer?
No.
Can you cure a headache?
No.
So what does this word mean? None. Because the cure means that you got rid of it. The reason we say in our society that we cured the flu or we cure our headache is because the root cause of the headache or the flu in the future is a different root cause. It's a different flu. Remember the flu season? It's a different flu.
Exactly.
So that's why the doctors say, okay, that's what it is. You're curing this and you're getting a brand new one which has a very similar symptoms or name or whatever, right? Well, we don't know the root causes of autoimmune disease. So could it be said that it's a bit arrogant to say that it's in remission because you don't even know the root cause? So you say, I don't know the root cause of this, so I'm going to give it a name to identify something I don't understand, and then tell you it's incurable even though you don't understand it. So how do you know it's incurable with something you don't understand? You don't understand the root cause. So that's the merry-go-round of this idea when doctors say we have an incurable disease. It's massive trauma on the spirit. It doesn't serve us. But I am still susceptible to get a reaction in my gut. What I say is I have a sensitive gut. If something happens, my gut can be a little reactive. To me that days, it's going to be a little bit of maybe loose stool or diarrhea. Maybe a little bit of inflammation could come. So that is the only thing where I'm not going to go around the world and say, I've cured this disease, but I haven't taken a medication in 10 years. I don't worry about a bathroom. I have 1 to 3 bowel movements today. I have no inflammation in my body. My lab work is normal. My last colonoscopy showed about 90% of any kind of disease gone. And I've helped thousands of people do the same.
But you understand your body.
Yes, exactly.
And you are managing your body as the CEO of Dane's body, right?
I thought it's healthier than everyone else who's never been sick.
So now the interesting part with me is I'm nearly 84, and I knock on wood. I seldom get sick like other people do. Seldom have a cold or anything like that. And they say well, the reason that you don't, John, is because you got good genes. Is that what it is?
Not in my opinion.
No, not.
I think genes are. I'd say genes is the other side of the coin. Yes.
Yeah.
But I think what we're learning through epigenetics is our actions help express genes over time. So it's more about what you do, because what our actions are expressing the genes that manifest at age 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So what do we want to express, and how do we want that to move? I think it's more, why are we seeing this epidemic of disease? Now, I think genes can save a few of us who are saying, well, I smoked a pack a day for 20 years and I lived to 95. There are people out there who can say that.
Yeah.
That's you're rolling the dice, and Yahtzee, you got lucky on genes, right?
Yeah.
So I think there is a few of us who can do that, but I think that most of us need to look what's right in front of us, because you cannot have an epidemic of disease that's gene related. It's impossible. No. If the amount of inflammatory bowel disease or rheumatoid arthritis or multiple sclerosis or cancer is going up exponentially, we know it's environmentally caused, because an epidemic must be something in the environment. It's not genetic.
Exactly.
So, yeah, we know it's something. And we know, for me, it's going to be pollutions. It's going to be soil deficiencies. It's going to be the destruction of our microbiome through antibiotics and plastics and all these things in our environment that we're ingesting.
So for me, from the time that I was 68, when I got a case of diverticulitis, brought me that close, that sent me the signal, in my case, that I had to become more proactive. So I started listening to my wife, who's a vegetarian. I'm a vegan, 80, 20, 90, 10. I do all the shopping actually for our family. If I go in the store, I go on the outside. I don't like processed food because I don't know what is in it. And I stay with natural a lot. And then, the other part that I did is I was just like a lot of other people that say at the end of the year, we say, we're going to do this, that, and I get a membership to the gym. And then 2 weeks later, we find 100 reasons that we don't have time to go to the gym. But I got a trainer involved, and that worked with me and still is today. And, and then within 6 years of going to the gym, 7 years, and I already was, 2017, I was already close to 77. Somebody said, have you ever thought about competing? And I said, me? Really? Yeah. And I started competing, bodybuilding and physique. First in Northern BC, came in second bodybuilding, third in physique. Then provincially, came in third and second bodybuilding, qualified me for the nationals and the Arnolds. And so then COVID came, and then so I'm training again at nearly 84, being ready for the Arnolds in 2025. And then I wrote a book about it, Living Young, Dying Old. This is the book, and that's a picture of me. And so and
I love it.
And again, being proactive in understanding your body, thanks to my wife in a lot of ways, is very, very important. And then the other one that is important for me is sunshine, sleep, diet, exercise. And obviously, not even talking about abuse like smoking, drinking. I don't do any of that. And all of those things combined, and then being active. And so even at 84, I'm have 10 different companies. It's not about how successful John is, but but I'm very active there. I'm working on my 5th book, and I go to the gym. I'm one of the most active podcasters, the top 1% globally. And I get up at 5:30 in the mornings. I always think I'm late. I always make my bed. And people say to me, how do you do all this stuff? Now, there's another thing that I have. I'm gonna send you copies of all my books here.
Thank
And
you.
the one book that I did is this one here. I'm also ADHD, and I call it a superpower. And so a lot of times I talk to people and they say, how do you do all this stuff? I said, ADHD, that's how I do it. But the key likely is the same as you do, Dane. I enjoy life. The things that are important to me is attitude, passion, work ethic, and what will follow is success. And then the other part is never give up. And I went through a cycle like that. I'm going to send you a book, Against All Odds, that kind of talks about all the ups and downs. And I'm going to sign them for you. I'm going to send them out sometimes today or in the next couple of days, so you have them next week.
Thank you, John. I'm excited to read those. Thank you so much. I appreciate that gift.
Now, the other part about us is that there we are here, on podcasting, which is such an amazing media, really. It's only on its infancies, but while you and me are sharing, and you in particular sharing your personal story about Crohn's disease, how it nearly brought you to death virtually, and then how you came from it and where you are today, in sharing with this the rest of the world. As you and me are sitting here as friends talking about it and sharing our stories, in the meantime, we already know that tens of thousands of people are watching us around the world. And that's the amazing part about podcasting. And that's why I love it. It's still growing. And for all those people watching us and enjoying our conversation and learning from it, subscribe to us, like us, share us with others, comment on it. And do you have a website or so, Dwayne, that you can share with other people about your story or podcasting that you may do?
Yes, John. If you are out there dealing with IBD, IBS, any of these issues, you can find us at Crohn's Colitis Lifestyle.com. We do offer a free 1-hour complimentary session to go over your case and deep dive. We do help people around the world. We have doctors, practitioners, and coaches globally. So we have clients in Dubai and India and UK and Canada and America. We're all over. We see about 120 clients a week with IBD. That's all we do. All of our practitioners, myself, and all our coaches have inflammatory bowel disease ourselves. So we're for the people, by the people. And this is our passion, and we want to help. And if you're one of those people who needs help, reach out, and we're going to take care of you and put our best foot forward. And John, I would, also love to have you come on our podcast and talk more about your diverticulitis. So let's get you on, and I want to deep dive on what your experience with diverticulitis and how this vegan and exercise has helped shift your experience around your gut health.
I will do that. Scott will be in touch with you. And Dane, it was an amazing podcast, delightful to share with us, and being so truthful and honest about and open about things in your experience, and obviously your commitment to other people around the world that have gone through it or are trying to figure out how to deal with it. You will be an inspiration to them as you go forward. And I look forward to sending you our books. And again, Dane, thank you for being on my podcast, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you. And much love to everyone out there listening. Healing is possible. Hang in there. You can do it. John and I will take a stand for you. Happy healing. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Dane. Take care.